It's time for a brand new episode of the Bakery Bears video show.
This is our lifestyle show featuring craft, baking, and a little bit of history.
We've got lots of projects to show and one of our special series to share.
What will we feature this time, and which of our projects will be our favourite?
Let's get on with the show and find out.
Welcome, everybody, to a brand new era of the Bakery Bears video show.
Yes, indeed, things are a little bit different.
It's fair to say that we're excited and a little bit nervous about the new look to our lovely show. Yes, change is always difficult, isn't it?
Yes.
But
you know what they say?
It's as good as a rest.
Change is better than a rest.
Okay, variety is also the spice of life.
Change is as good as a rest.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I just said that.
Yeah, I know.
And
I
you
just
like
had to say it in my head.
Oh no, it's good, it's good. What?
It's good, it's good.
Yeah. That's to double emphasise the goodness. Look, this is the 10-year anniversary of this being our job. And we thought that this was the moment that it was right and proper to spruce up the place a little bit.
Yeah.
And what we tried to do is we tried to do it in a way which is very conscious of all the things which we know you love. Yeah. And also conscious of the sort of future and the direction that, you know, that we want to go in. So it's like setting off on just a slightly...
Yeah, it's just a nice refresh, isn't it?
Slightly altered course, you know. And I think the thing is that when we started the show, we had no idea what we were doing. And over the last 10 years, well, we didn't.
Still not sure what we do. There you go.
And over the last 10 years, we've learnt a huge amount about production and all of those types of things, as you've seen in our featured shows, you know, all the things that we've done over the years, Case Classic Bakes, and, I mean, even looking further back, what's in your oven? And, you know, it's been a real journey. Walking the wall, walking the dales, all of those different things. We've learned so much, and now it's time to sort of put a little bit of that onto the show. Now, look, people who don't like change, I just want to tell you a few things so that you don't feel as uncertain about the change. First thing is, opening music, it's just a rearrangement of the original music. It's just a bit quicker.
Bit faster.
Yes, which we really like. And also as well, the outtakes.
Yes, outtakes are still here.
Where are they now, Kay?
They're at the end.
Oh, yes.
So they haven't gone.
No.
Because I know a lot of people really like seeing the outtakes.
Yes.
Outtakes.
Oh, there's one.
There's one. So it just gives you something to look forward to right at the end.
It really does.
Yeah.
And look, this is just the start, because today we launch a brand new segment.
Yes.
Because I was stunned to discover that in Kay's What's on Your Needles, she has a favourite. I never knew this.
Yeah, you see, I think this has been a sort of subconscious thing. I actually show you them, or historically I've shown you them in a particular order of favouritism of project. Not going to say anything else.
So today we're going to launch our pick of the projects.
Pick of the projects. For some reason, I want to do Sale of the Century music when I say that.
And I also want to do Alan Freeman, you know, pop pickers.
Oh, listen, I was never really into that.
No, it was a long time before I was even born, I think.
Oh, but somebody else did something similar to that.
I don't know. I really don't know. But look, pick of the project is this. In our projects, we are going to, every episode, pick our favourite of the projects that we're currently working on.
Yeah.
And we will reveal them to you.
Yeah.
And we'll reveal them to you later on in the show.
Yes.
So the way that the show's going to work now is lovely introduction, what's on your needles, first part of whatever featured segment we've got.
Yeah.
Then pick the projects.
Yeah.
What's off your needles.
Yeah.
Second part of the featured segment, and then back to us for the Endy Bits.
Yes.
Oh, yes. So it's going to be
just
very...
mixing it up a bit,
Mix it up, baby.
Having a bit of fun, refreshing it.
Yes,
So everything is still here that everybody knows and loves, We've just had a bit of a jiggle with it.
Oh.
Bit of a jiggle. Always good.
Hey, now, the other thing that I just wanted to say to you as well is one of the things which over the years we've probably not been as good at as we should have is we produce lots of other content too.
Yeah.
Lots of people ask us what it is, and we've never really... It's just sort of been there. And if you're a patron, you got to see it. If you weren't, you didn't. So what we've done is, the first thing we did is every month we put out a content schedule which tells you everything that's coming up next month that isn't here on the main video show. But in addition to that now, what we've done is, well, what I've started to do for pretty much the last month is every time we put something out, I cut a little short version of it, so the whole world gets to see a little bit of it, and we post it to our Facebook page.
Yeah.
So if you would like to see, at no additional cost, a little bit more of what we do and just get a taste of all the other stuff as well, go and follow our Facebook page. And we've even cut a few reels, haven't we? Whatever one of those is.
I have no idea what a reel is on Instagram. What's a reel? What's a story? I don't know.
Well, also as well, it's the whole thing where...
What are the things in the circles?
Well,
do they disappear? Where do you
look.
find those? What's... I don't... yeah.
Just trying to keep up with the youths.
I cannot keep up with it all, no.
I suppose it's a bit like, though, when things like YouTube launched. People would have been like...
Yeah, I suppose
What's
so.
this?
Yeah.
What's this about? How do we use this?
Yeah.
It's just all too much.
And, how do people even get to know about these things? When Instagram do something new, how do you even know?
I know. The other thing as well that always makes me laugh, the thing that puzzles me and Kay more than anything is when people don't use texts on their phone, but instead use messaging services. Why would I download an additional thing to text when it's already on my phone already?
So what does Bryony use with her friends?
I don't know. Look, it doesn't matter.
It's not Snapchat, is it? No,
so.
What? I don't know.
Whatever it is what it is.
So Bryony messages like her boyfriend and other friends using this messaging service, but obviously she knows when she's messaging us, she's got to text like normal. And we say to her, why don't you just text rather than like in an app? What's the point? And she's like, it's just what everyone does. That's not an answer, is it?
No. It's called fashion, isn't it?
It's perfectly good service just texting on your phone, isn't it?
But then you have relatives, and also my best friend who you met last year, Luke always says to me, oh, have you not got WhatsApp yet?
WhatsApp, that's it. Not Snapchat.
I say, no, I don't.
What is Snapchat?
And I'm never going to.
No, everybody always says, my brother in Germany says, have you got WhatsApp? No.
Bryony does not use WhatsApp.
Oh, what does she use?
I don't know, but she doesn't use WhatsApp.
She doesn't use WhatsApp?
No, no. But,
See what I mean? Not a clue. And people say,
the thing on your phone
group.
that says
What's
messaging?
That? Or is it a Snapchat group? Or what are these groups?
You can do groups on phones.
Yes, you can. Yeah, because my brother texts me and my sister at the same time sometimes.
It's just
so you can do that, can't you?
It's all too much.
Modern
technology.
Let's go back to the 80s, shall
Hey, look,
we? You picked up a phone in your house.
I know we've spoken about this before, but I just want to say, because it's so funny, supermarkets rearrange, do you know? Yes. Suddenly you can't find anything. Our local supermarket now, before, all the tins always on one aisle. No longer. They're all over the shop. Look, forget that. For the first time ever, I've started seeing in supermarkets maps.
Yeah, there's now like this board in the supermarket saying,
help us find your
favourites. Such and such is on aisle whatever. And I just feel like writing on it, well, stop moving things around and you wouldn't need to do this, would you? It's like the most frustrating thing. And we all know why they do it. We all know why they do it. It's so you walk past stuff you wouldn't normally walk past and you might buy it when you wouldn't normally buy it.
At our age, we know what we like.
We're wise to this.
We know what we like. We just want what we like. Thank you very much.
Oh, we've become like our grandparents, haven't we? Who just like go on about the modern world.
My gran loved Asda.
Oh, really?
Yes, every time you went to my gran's, whatever time of day it was, she took you down to Asda for a breakfast.
Wow.
All day breakfast, Kay.
All day breakfast. Yeah. I've never done that in Asda's.
No.
We always call it Asda's.
Yes, we did. Oh, look, we did it again. Look,
The bananas are very good though. Do go to Asda for bananas.
This show is way too exciting because this show features a brand new episode of Britain the Stately Era, and
yes,
prepare yourselves because we will be unveiling a brand new piece of music that, I mean, like...
Oh, this is so cool.
So, as you know, we work with my brother Dom, who is a composer, and sometimes he writes stuff for us. Other times we look through his library. Was looking through his library of music, spotted this particular piece, asked him if we could use it. He goes, yeah, that's no problem. The last time that was used, it was for King Charles to walk up to make a speech at the COP28 event, the UN climate change event in 2023. I'm like, you're joking. Sent me a link. There he is. There's the music.
The music that you're going to hear. I mean, that is just insane, isn't it?
I should pop the link to it in the show notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll put the link in the show notes.
You can
see
go
we're not
watch
fibbing.
the King walking up to
the same
speak
music.
using this music. I mean...
oh my goodness.
Bonkers, and it's beautiful, obviously, because everything Dom does is amazing.
And another new piece coming next, Britain the Stately Era as well. But look, way too much excitement this episode because we've got lots of lovely things to talk about, because there's one thing that's going nowhere.
Yeah.
We've done it since day one and we'll do it forever, and that is Kay Jones. What's on your needles?
Yay!
Brand new graphics, though.
Brand new graphics.
Oh, yes.
Loving the pink.
Oh, yes.
right.
Yes, you can see the...
Look.
The creative director of Bakery Bed Productions.
Can't go wrong. Even my drink is pink
has
today.
Sprinkled her pinkness.
Look, even my drink
all
is
over.
Pink.
Yes.
Today I've got Robinson's. It's a very exciting drink. It's Robinson's summer fruit and barley.
All right.
With sparkling water.
Okay, so you've latched on
it's
to
almost a cocktail, isn't it?
Yes.
Really, let's face it. So...
yeah, we must remember to hold off our pick of the projects.
Hold off, I might. Yes, I'm not.
Yeah,
this is not.
Well, it's just after years of doing it one way, to suddenly do it a different way.
Absolutely, like
yes.
I'm like
Don't mess this
chomping
up.
at the bit.
Come on,
to show you what my favourite project has been these past 2 weeks, because I haven't shown my favourite project anywhere yet.
No,
it's a brand new thing, and I'm like beyond excited about it. But no, we're going to start off with a pair of socks. I had an urge these past couple of weeks to knit a yellow pair of socks, and a particular shade of yellow, like a lemon yellow. I just got obsessed with it, the idea of knitting a lemon yellow pair of socks. And I think it comes from the fact that the weather has finally seemed... We think it's like turned a corner now with the weather, and it's actually sunny today.
Well, you've blown it. It's going to snow now tomorrow.
But at the moment, and looking forward for the next few days, it's fairly sunny. It's nice and mild. It's sort of, I don't know, somewhere between 12, 13 degrees C. Spring is springing all around.
Busting out all over.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful. I saw a big fat bumblebee outside the window the other day. It's just lovely what you see.
There's a song. It's got it. Spring.
Yeah. It's an older one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah. So I went hunting for some lemon yellow yarn. I could have dyed some, but I just wanted to see what was out there, really. And actually, there's another one here. I actually ordered 2, and it turned out that I think they are exactly the same shade, right? And I even feel like it's the same base. They feel the same, right? This is just weird. So the 2 yarns, right, I got these both from Wool Warehouse. I went for a Cascade Heritage, and then I went for one of the Yarnsmiths Yarn, which is Wool Warehouse's own brand. And on screen, you know, they looked very, very similar. And they arrived, and I'm like, these are literally the same. And the base also feels... I can't say it's identical, because how could it be, really? But they honestly feel really, really similar. So I decided to go with the Yarnsmiths. But I'll show you the Cascade Heritage, first of all. This shade was... It was just called Lemon, I think. And it's number 5644. So it's this beautiful, just perfectly lemon shade. And the only reason I didn't use that is that I haven't really used the Yarnsmiths before, so I wanted to give that a try. And I've used Cascade Heritage a lot. So I'm saving that for something else. But this is the one I'm using. So look at this yarn. It looks like it's the Cascade wound up. And shall I show you them together? I mean, is there a difference between those two?
Well, I think there is.
Do you think there's a difference?
Yeah, the difference from my eye sat here is that one has a tighter twist. That looks to me like a more defined twist than that. That looks more fuzzy than that one.
Well,
it's marginal.
I don't even know. I mean, I'm laying the Yarnsmiths over the Cascade, so it's over. Look, could you define that from that?
Well, I just feel like because the twist on that looks tighter, I don't know quite what it is, but to me that looks like it's going to have better stitch definition than that does.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, maybe the Yarnsmiths is a bit of a tighter twist. But in terms of colour...
Oh, it's the same.
Do you...
It's virtually identical.
It is really, really, really similar. I don't think I've ever bought two yarns and them look so similar. So I've gone with the Yarnsmiths. So it's Merino Sock. And this colourway name was Duckling. And the shade number is very complex. It's 2K172. And honestly, that's what swayed me. I wanted to use the yarn that was called Duckling.
Yeah, it's cute.
Because, why wouldn't you? And it's lovely. I've finished a sock. So I've actually designed a pattern to use with this because I did want just a, like a solid colour, really. And I just thought, well, this is perfect to show off some kind of a pattern. So let me show you. So here's the first sock, which is finished. And what I've done is I've put on there, it's actually like a travelling rib. And what it does is it makes it look like it's swirling around. Isn't it pretty? And I've done this quite short because it's coming up summer, isn't it? And, I like short socks generally. And it just seemed to fit the theme because I do have a name for this. Because what I'm going to do with this sock, right, is I loved it so much as I was knitting it. I did a little swatch, right? Let me show you my cute little swatch. So when I'm designing socks, I do little swatches, and generally I have like this big long sort of sock snake thing just actively on the needles, but I didn't in this case. I had to start a new one. So what I do is I just cast on 32 stitches, so I do half of the standard sort of 64, because I find that's enough to show me the pattern, and also the numbers fit because it's half what the 64 is. So look, I did this tiny little cute little swatch. Look how cute that is. And I could see from that it was going to work just so beautifully. So and then I cast on. So these socks are going to be the platinum pattern that goes out to our patrons on the 1st of June.
It's super interesting, this, because you were going to put something else out, but you were struck with like divine inspiration.
Yeah, I was going to put something else out. I was going to put out this kind of wrap that I knit last year sometime, I think.
But you were so inspired about this subject.
Yeah, and also that wrap is sort of like an autumnal colour, and it just didn't seem to fit a pattern that was going out on the 1st of June. And because I was just so inspired to knit these lemon yellow socks and they felt spring-like and summer-like, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to put these out as the platinum pattern that goes out, like I said, to our patrons on the 1st of June. And I've called these the lemon top socks. Now, does everybody know what a lemon top is? I don't know if it's a worldwide thing.
And you've had one, haven't you?
I've never had a lemon top. This is tragic.
Look, everyone, I would guess, in the UK...
Yeah.
I mean... I suppose I'm only talking northern UK.
Yeah,
but everyone,
I think it is a northern thing.
You went to the Mr. Whippy van, and the Mr. Whippy van, if you were lucky, not only had the Whippy ice cream, but also had a lemon mixture, which he also fed into the same machine, much more water-based, not cream-based.
Yeah, more like a sorbet.
Like a sorbet, yes, said. And you would get it, and it's like squirted out and like...
On the top. So you'd have a Mr. Whip, so it's an ice cream.
It's like gorgeous.
It's a lemon top. So imagine an ice cream cone with Mr. Whippy vanilla ice cream, and then on the top of that, a little whip of lemon top, which is like a lemon sorbet.
And then for an extra 25 pence,
could you have a flake?
a flake shoved in it.
Is that called something else? Lemon top with a flake.
Now, I loved lemon top so much. This is what inspired my mum to then look for that recipe for the cake, which was covered in lemon curd. And didn't you redo it for me?
I tried to do it one time, I think.
Well, you did redo it for me.
And it had flake all around the outside.
It was just too
something.
sickly.
Very, very
it was too
sweet. It was very, very sweet. Yeah, so these are the lemon top socks. And the swirl is the swirl, you know, Mr. Whippy swirl. And then you get a lemon top swirl on top. And I did some research about the lemon top. And there's actually an ice cream shop on the coast in, was it Redcar?
Yes.
Was it Redcar?
Yes.
Redcar is a coastal town, seaside town, up on the northeast coast, not too far from us actually. But the thing with Redcar is, right, Redcar actually, the beach was used in a film, wasn't it?
No, hold on.
What was the film?
Look, please, every person who is watching today, who has seen Blade Runner, has seen the skyline of Redcar.
Yes.
Because Ridley Scott grew up in this part of the world, and he based the city in Blade Runner on the skyline of Redcar.
Because it's all like...
ICI.
ICI. What do they produce there?
We don't want to even consider it, Kay.
No, it's all like factories, and it's right, literally, you stand
Chemicals,
on
Kay.
chemicals.
But none of it's there anymore.
No.
It's all closed. That's excellent.
Thank goodness.
But then, what you're thinking of the beach of Redcar was used in Atonement.
That's it.
Because when they were filming Atonement, they wanted to look for a beach that looked as much like the beaches of Dunkirk with the least amount of effort. And yes, they chose Redcar Beach. If I take you up the coast from Redcar and go to Ryop Beach, that was used for Alien 3, I think it was.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes. So Ryop Beach
really
with Brian Glover.
Isn't it?
Yes.
But have we ever been to Redcar?
No.
No, you see, Dan's saying it like that because although it's a seaside town, because I think of the ICI plant that was there historically, it's probably not the prettiest place in the world, I would say.
Dan used to teach in Redcar.
Yeah, but it does have like this amazing beach. But if you, I think all the ICI works are still there, aren't they?
Yes.
It's just closed down. So if you went and stood on the beach there, you could see it all.
Very picturesque.
It's not really.
It's like Rutger Hauer and Harrison Ford. They're going to come walking past.
But of course, you could go to this ice cream shop, which apparently is quite famous in the area, and get yourself a lemon top.
Yeah, not the best reviews, Kate.
No, I read the reviews.
But look,
no, they were good. It's just that they said they were very expensive. I think it was like £4 or something for an ice cream, which...
Yeah, we also read that
that's dear, isn't it?
The service was a little bit interesting.
The service was a bit strange, yeah. But
no, look,
a bit of a waffle about lemon tops, isn't it?
We did, but tell them... we were going to stop for a coffee in a coffee shop in our local town. And I wasn't keen because I like, a specific type of coffee made at home.
It's just fussy.
So Kay looked up a particular review. And we've all been in a place, haven't we, where you've gone up,
TripAdvisor reviews are so fun. Yeah. If you've got 10 minutes spare, just look up something random on TripAdvisor.
And what did that woman say?
Hilarious.
She'd gone in.
So this couple had gone in. I think it was their birthday or something. So this coffee shop also serves food. It's like quite a sort of trendy, hip little place on a corner. Yeah. Not been there very long.
No.
And they'd gone in. It was very busy. There wasn't a table available, but the waiter said...
Waitress.
I don't know if they'd even call waiters these days. Whatever.
Server.
The server in the shop said, you can go and sit on the seats in the window if you want, have a coffee, and I'll call you over when there's a table free. Fine, we'll do that. So they go and do that. 10 or 15 minutes later, she sees this couple walk in asking for a table, and he seats them straight away on a table, even though they're waiting. So she draws this to the attention of the server, and they went, oh, you look really comfortable, so I just left you there.
The best one was a woman went in. A woman went in with two friends to sit down for a cake and a coffee. She walked up to the counter and said, have you got a table for three? I went, no, sorry, we're too busy. She went, oh, that's a shame. Turned around and walked away. And as she's walking away, the woman she spoke to goes, ooh, that's a shame.
Yeah, she was like mocking her.
We're not going in there, Kate.
We're not going to go in there, no. But, fun to read these things, isn't it?
It's
and
brilliant.
just have a bit of a giggle. Anyway, back to the sock. The lemon top socks. So yeah, I've got the second one on the needles. I've just got the rib finished. So I'm ready to start the patterning. And what I've really enjoyed, I like the yarn. I've only used this in a tiny bit. When I made, can you remember last year I made those Beetlejuice mitts for Bryony? I used a little bit of Yarnsmiths in those, but not really enough to judge whether I liked it or not. And I do like it. It does feel quite similar to the Cascade Heritage to knit with, but perfectly lovely. If you are looking for some solids, a good solid, sock yarn, a good kind of, maybe if you want to do colourwork or stripes or whatever, this is a really nice yarn. I do really like it. Solid yarn, really, really nice to work with. And like I say, I've got the second one on the go, and these will be going out to our patrons on the 1st of June. Now, one thing I want to say about that is I do get a lot of messages from people saying they're kind of a bit disappointed that they can't access a particular pattern because, for example, it's one of my platinum collection patterns. So the platinum patterns are exclusive to our patrons, and, without our patrons, we say this so many times, but it's so true. Without our patrons, we honestly would not be sat here. It is all down to them. So my platinum collection is just part of the way that we give back to that lovely community to say, thank you so much for supporting us all these 10 years that we've been going now. And it's really important to me that I do that to the best of my ability. So I put effort into all of my designs, but I always want to make sure that the ones that go out to our patrons, I really want to make sure it's things that I'm really, really proud of and really happy to be giving back to our patrons. But if you want to access any of these patterns, say for example you really liked these socks, what you can do, you can sign up as a patron, sign up as a gold level patron, which is $10 a month. You can access the pattern on the 1st of June. You can also access the previous one that's come out this year. You can look at some knittabilities. You can watch a whole bunch of tutorials. There's hundreds of tutorials. You can watch a load of pop shows. And if after the month, that you've paid for, if it's not something you want to carry on with, then you can cancel your membership. You don't have to continue with it. And you will have got out of that $10, you will have got 2 patterns.
4 patterns.
4 patterns, is it?
Yeah.
Why is it 4?
Because gold patrons get access to the last 4 platinum
that's
patterns.
That's right,
Yeah.
yes.
So how much would a pattern normally cost on Ravelry?
£4.75, so...
How many dollars is that?
$5, I don't know.
$5.
Something like $5, yeah.
So it's half price for the patterns then?
Yeah. So you will have got more than your money, more than your money back, but you will have also had the opportunity to see what it is that we do, with our patrons or do for our patrons. So I just wanted to say that really, because I do get that message quite a lot to say, I'm really disappointed that I can't get this pattern. And I always feel kind of a bit sad and a bit like, oh gosh, just makes me feel a bit bad that people can't access things. But what I'm saying is you wouldn't have designed it had we not had patrons. No, that's quite right. That's quite right. But what I'm saying is you can access it and it won't cost you any more than if you were just going to buy the pattern. And then you might find that you want to stay with us. You might enjoy the things that we do. But yeah, my lemon top socks, loving them. Carrying on with the second one, and they will be out on the 1st of June.
Cool.
So, Dan Jones,
Yes.
What's on your needles?
This is the Primrose Yarn Company and Brooklyn Tweed worsted weight in the Darkroom colourway. And this is the yarn.
Yeah.
And I bought this, or Kay bought this, for the jumper that I'm knitting, the Albion.
Yeah.
And I started knitting the rib of that. If you may recall, if you saw, and the rib was awful. It was like all over the place. So we put it away, and we're like, what we're going to do, and I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to knit myself a hat with it just to see how it goes. And it's been such an interesting process because at the same time, as you might recall, last episode, I've casted on a hat with some Feederbrook Farm yarns, and the rib looks great and everything looks lovely. And I cast on this hat, and I'm obviously thinking about how I'm knitting this, because last time the rib was all over the place. So thinking about, making sure that, tight on certain stitches. We spoke about it at the time. So I did that. I did what Kay said, and the yarn broke. So then I loosened off a bit, and the result is this.
Yeah, it's really not the neatest piece of work that Dan's ever done.
And what this did is, I actually said to Kay yesterday, I said that, when you look at someone's knitting and it looks uneven and not very good, you probably, if you were that way inclined, you might think, they've not really knitted with a particularly good technique there. Well, actually, how often is the finished object affected by the product that we're using to knit it with?
Yeah, the yarn.
Well, it's going to be affected a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, different yarns will knit up differently. And this yarn is very... people might be familiar with this yarn, but it's very textural, let's say. And it does break, really easily. So you do definitely have to be careful with...
It breaks as easy as Let Lopey.
It's, it literally pulls apart.
What's interesting, though, with Let Lopey is...
So if you are the type of knitter that gives your stitches a little tug, then I think you need to be careful with it.
The interesting thing is, with Let Lopey, I can get a better finish with Let Lopey. It seems to have more strength when you're actually knitting. This is even weaker.
Let Lopey, it's not like this. I mean, it's a very particular type of yarn, this.
Now, the positives...
It's almost, I don't know. I don't really even know how to describe it. It's very light, I will say. It weighs nothing, which is an advantage, isn't it, when you're knitting a jumper, for example? But this is what it looks like in the skein. So, yeah, you just wanted to give it another go, didn't you, and knit something else. And it'll be a perfectly serviceable hat, and I do think it'll be nice to wear, because it is soft. It's not itchy in the least.
So the positives to it, and the whole reason why I picked it back up, was when you touch it, it doesn't feel like anything I've really touched before. When it comes to yarn, it doesn't really have any prickle whatsoever. It's very light, as Kay said. When I've knitted it a little bit, it feels like it would be wearable. And so that then makes me think that perhaps it might be all right on the head.
Oh, yeah.
In sort of autumn and spring.
I think it'll be lovely to wear as a hat.
I mean, I'd be interested to know how warm it is.
I think it'll be warm.
So maybe it'll be a winter hat then.
I do think it'll be warm, because
right.
I think the loftiness somehow sort of catches air. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sort of holds warmth, I think, the lofty nature of the yarn.
I suppose I'm enjoying knitting with it, because I'm enjoying knitting with it in the sense of it's weird and, it's different. And so that's cool. But I'm not enjoying the fact that you can't really... You have to let it do what it wants to do, otherwise it's just going to go. There's been a few times, it's only broken once, but there's been a few times where I've been doing the things I would normally do to get a decent finish, and I've just felt it and like, whoa, that's not going to do it. And so, interesting, really interesting. So I'm looking forward to finishing this and putting it on my head.
Yeah.
And this is a new cast on, actually, but we don't count those anymore, so that's no good.
No, so was my socks, but no, we don't count them.
But that just shows you I'm quite motivated to get through it for positives and negatives.
Yeah, it's a lovely colour, but I seem to remember it wasn't what I expected the colour, was it? I thought it was going to be more of a navy blue, and it's more of a teal blue. But it's still it's a very pretty, very pretty colour. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my first and least favourite project.
That you're currently working on?
Yes.
So my middle favourite then, I suppose.
Well, no, this is it's wrong to say this, because those lemon top socks you've been absolutely obsessed with.
Yeah, I have.
And loving.
Yeah, I have. So it's very difficult to choose a favourite, isn't it, of things that you're working on, I think. But I'll explain why I chose the thing I chose when we get to it. But yeah, the second thing that I've been working on, and I thought I'd have this finished actually, but it turns out I don't. It's my skinny scarf. Do you know the stripy scarf that I've been working on? And I honestly thought it was long enough. And then I kind of wrapped it around my neck and I'm like, no, it's not. I think it's really surprising, isn't it, with scarves, how long they actually need to be. And I read something once somewhere, I think, that a scarf needs to be as long as you are tall. Does that make sense? And then I have measured it, so I'll tell you how long it currently is and how much longer I think I need to go. So it's very long. It's actually currently 65 inches long. So we started down here. So what I did for this was I just took all of my leftover self-striping yarn. I cast on 56 stitches in the round, just like a sock. And I'm using 2.75mm needles just so that it's not really dense. And I just started to knit. So I started down here. This one I believe is a freckled whimsy. And then I went into this one. I'm just doing one repeat of each of the yarns. So some of them are longer than others, just depends on how long the repeat is. And I've just been working my way through. There's all sorts. There's lots of fab funky fibres. This tiny one here is Stripy cat yarns who don't dye currently. I've got some Polka Dot Creek. This one is Moustache Yarn, Very Hobbit Christmas. Another freckled whimsy. We've then got Moustache, one of the Star Wars ones. This one is Han Solo. We've then got this lovely rainbow one, which I knit down a pair of socks out of this. It's Creolien Designs, I believe. Another freckled whimsy, another fab funky fibres. And then the last time I showed you, I was here. And this one is Fibre Nymph Dye Works. That's a blast from the past, isn't it? Fibre Nymph Dye Works, and it was the Fruit Loops. This one here is Fruit Loops. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colours from the purple down to the pink here. We've then gone into another Star Wars one here. One of Bryony's favourite Star Wars characters is the Mandalorian. And this one is Boba Fett. So there's a relation there, isn't there? Because he's a Mandalorian. And then this one, I absolutely love this one here. This is Fab Funky Fibres. And it goes from this green down to this golden colour. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stripes. And it's called Tutti Frutti. And the stripes are much wider than normal. How many? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 rounds. That's on a 56 stitch count. So it'd be a bit less on a 64. But still, compare them to a normal one down here. It's much thicker. I think you normally get sort of 5 or 6 rounds, don't you, on self-striping. And I love the colours. It's very summery. And then I'm now working another Moustache yarns in, and this one is called, I think it's a Christmas colourway, but I don't understand why it's a Christmas colourway, but I'm probably just not understanding the reference. Oh, I've not got the band because it's attached to the other 50 grams. It was called Hard Candy. Is that like boiled sweets? We would call it boiled sweets maybe, but I don't understand why that. I think it was a Christmas reference, but I don't understand why it would be. But in any case, it's beautiful. It's loads of stripes. I can't remember how many stripes there are. I'm just working my way through. And I'll see when I get back to the beginning. It started here with this golden colour. And then I'm just working my way through. So when I hit that golden colour again, I'll just stop. So I'm at 65 inches. What I've been doing, let me just show you what I do to judge the length. Because the way that Bryony likes to wrap her scarves around, she likes to sort of wrap them around her neck, if you know what I mean. So let's say it needs to sit about there. I've then been wrapping it around and then seeing where this end comes to. And can you see how much I've still got to go? Isn't that just like ridiculous that it needs to be so long? So I've still probably got 12 inches maybe to go. That's bonkers, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe it'd be a bit tighter on her neck, actually. Maybe it'd be more like that. Oh, so actually maybe it's not as much as that. I reckon it's at least 6 inches I've got to do. But isn't it fun? Look how fun it is. I just think it's a really nice sort of accent piece, if you like, to early spring or later autumn. Do you know when you don't need anything too heavy? So it's really fun. That all went wrong. It got stuck to my hair. So I'm just keeping going. I've got this one. I actually ran out of leftover self-striping. So I wound the Tutti Frutti. I had 2 50-gram skeins, so I wound one of the 50 grams for that. The hard candy, I had 2 50-gram skeins again, so I wound one of those to put into here. And then I've also got another Fab Funky Fibres. This one was very similar to a pair of socks that I'd knit Bryony recently. It was a Star Trek theme, this one. I can't remember the name of this one, but it was sort of similar to a pair that I've just made for her. So I've got this one to put in as well. And I'm hoping that when I've done the hard candy and when I've done this, it'll be long enough. I think, to be honest, I'm just going to call it done when I've done these two, because I haven't got any more leftovers. And I can't keep... You know, it's a bit indulgent, isn't it, winding a whole skein just to put into this. But then it does mean I've got the yarn ready to knit socks when I want to. But I'm hoping that next time this will be finished, because I'm just doing a few stripes every day, and it does grow quite quickly. You know, I've since I last showed you, I've done, gosh, I don't know how much that is in inches, 20 maybe, 24, something like that. And it's really fun, and it's a really great use of leftovers, I think. I was thinking, if you had one of those sock cranking machine thingies, you could whip one of these out in no time, couldn't you? With a whole skein of like self-striping, if you had one of those, you could just crank out a massive long tube and make loads of presents for people for Christmas. I was thinking that. I'm thinking, gosh, if I had one of those machines, I'd absolutely do that.
Yeah, let's not go in there.
Well, they're really expensive,
yeah.
and I won't know where to put it.
No.
But I know people out there do have them. So I think these would make great presents.
Definitely.
Get cranking some of your self-striping if you've got one of those.
Right, it's time to continue our story of the British Republic, which kicked off the stately era. And last time we visited the absolutely amazing Barley Hall in York, and we learned all about the Viking origins of the British stately home. Today we get serious though, as we get into our first proper stately home in a house which looks like it steps straight off the set of Pride and Prejudice. This is Britain, the stately era.
Welcome to modern Britain. These are scenes many of us will know all too well. The question is, how did we get here?
Society did not arrive here by chance. If we look back through history, we can pinpoint moments where decisions were made, often by the smallest demographic of people, that led us to a point where the modern world would thrive.
King Alfred the Great's defeat of the Vikings in the 9th century. The castle's arrival in the 11th century. The dissolution of the monasteries in the 16th century.
But there's just one event that set Britain on course to where she stands today.
That event brought about the birth of modern journalism. inspired the construction of a navy which would in time deliver an empire, but also win a world war. And most importantly, it gave the country a government and a monarchy which remains to this day.
But it starts at a time when we had no monarchy at all. This is the story of the English Republic, an earth-shattering period in history which saw the end of the castle and the end of all powerful kings and queens. This was the first chapter of the modern world that we all now live in, and it was set against an architectural revolution, one that would deliver the homes that the new people in charge would live in. Welcome to Britain, the stately era. Welcome everyone to Benningborough Hall, the next destination in our exploration of the English stately home. But before we get started today, let's have a look back on all that we discovered in the first episode in this wonderful series.
We visited Bilborough and we met Thomas Fairfax, son of York, and we discovered his links to the foundation of the English Commonwealth. We found turmoil at the Houses of Parliament, with no one wanting to step up and lead the new government. And we looked for the first inspiration to the English stately home, which we found here at Barley Hall. It's a superb example of a medieval manor house.
In this spectacular episode of the series, we'll visit our first wonderful English stately home here at Benningborough Hall.
We'll uncover the huge inspiration to its design dating from the time of the Romans, and we'll also discover the birth of tabloid journalism and its role in the Commonwealth.
But before all that, we have a story to continue, because when I left you last time, a new man had risen to the top of the English Commonwealth's army.
His name was Oliver Cromwell, and he was a ruthless operator, to say the least. With the retirement of Thomas Fairfax, he now found himself at the head of the Commonwealth's army.
But all is not well in England. Their executed king's son, Charles, now sits on the throne of Scotland, and he wants to reunite the kingdoms of Britain. The man who was sent to stop him was Oliver Cromwell. So to discover this story, let's head out into the Benningborough estate for a little walk. King Charles II was tall, well-dressed, sharp of mind and handsome. His arrival in Scotland had proved a rallying cry for all those loyal to the monarchy, and now hundreds, thousands flocked to his cause. But even though he had a growing set of supporters, King Charles would need all his guile to survive what were tempestuous times.
But But with the wind in his sails, in the autumn of 1650, King Charles II's supporters set out to meet Oliver Cromwell and his army in a battle close to the town of Dunbar in Scotland. Everything was in their favour. The English were the invaders. They were lacking in food and water, and they were smaller in number than King Charles' men.
But they hadn't counted for the tactical genius of Oliver Cromwell. The English army mounted a surprise attack, and the Royalist army turned and ran. But Charles II had not come this far without putting up a real fight. So he pulled together his remaining troops, about 12,000 men, and they set out on a daring raid into England.
Far away in London, the leader of the Republic's ruling council was John Bradshaw, England's king in all but name. He was, to put it mildly, terrified. Whilst this invasion was small, it might just pick up steam. And if it was successful, he knew all too well, as leader of England's new republic, he would be disposed of immediately. So he ordered Cromwell to destroy the invading army.
King Charles II made outstanding progress into England. He actually made it 446 miles from Scotland all the way to Worcester. It was an amazing feat, really, for a 21-year-old newly crowned king. But it turned out he'd made a grave mistake.
Charles had expected men to flock in droves to his banner, but after nearly 10 years of civil war, most of the public wanted a quiet life, and few joined forces with his exhausted men. Cromwell and his army caught up with the invaders at the city of Worcester, and Charles only just managed to escape with his life. He disguised himself as a forester and hid in an oak tree before escaping to France and the safety of his mother. Charles II's escape is thought by many historians to be the most daring in English history.
Now, safely back in France, was that the end of King Charles II's story? We'll find out later on in the series. Incidentally, that tree that he hid in became known as the Royal Oak, and in subsequent years it's lent its name to public houses, pubs, as you may know them, all across the country. There was only one man, though, raising a glass after the Battle of Worcester, and that was Oliver Cromwell, and he was now on his way back to London.
Cromwell returned to London in triumph, and he was given a hero's welcome. Some thought fit for a king. Whilst he was modest in public, a seed had been sown which would blossom in due course. With Charles' revolution dealt with, the Council of State set out to settle the country once and for all. They passed a law pardoning anyone who'd been loyal to the king. These were the dukes and duchesses and lords and ladies who had once lived in the castles of England. For the payment of a hefty tax, they'd be free to return to what was left of their lands and live a life of retirement on their estates. Most did so. This marked in many areas of England the start of the stately era. Watching on from afar to all of this was a man called Marchmont Needham. He was at the cutting edge of a new development known as the newspaper. Unlike his contemporaries, Needham specialised in creating enticing stories, even when none existed. Needham set out to do this using humour and satire, because he knew he could sway the masses if he entertained and delighted them. As Oliver Cromwell's star had begun to rise, Needham got wind of a story which he felt had to be published. In the months before his campaign in Scotland, it was becoming widely believed he had used brutal tactics whilst based in Ireland. Needham discovered he'd killed innocent women and children at specific battles across the country. This was too much, and something had to be done.
wonderful gardens at Benningborough Hall.
30 years ago, if you'd visited these gardens, the years had not been kind. But the National Trust stepped in and began a restoration programme which brought the garden back from the brink. 120 fruit trees were planted with a focus on varieties known to have been grown on the estate when it was at its height. One of the most famous is the Ribston Pippin apple, which was a favourite of the Victorians, great for eating, cooking and making cider. Now, a garden like this requires control over the eventual size of the trees. Today, gardeners use a rootstock. A bud from a variety that's known to grow to the size required is grafted onto the rootstock of another. The resulting tree's growth is then limited to the desired size. When restoring this garden in 1995, Benningborough's gardeners discovered huge stone slabs laid 3 feet beneath the surface. The Victorians had used them to block root growth, achieving the same results as a rootstock. 30 years on, and as you can see, the garden is thriving, still managed by the National Trust, with much of its produce used in the restaurant and shop that you can find on site.
Whilst much of what we see here today is Victorian, this land was once owned by the Franciscan monks of St Leonard's Hospital in York. When Henry VIII dissolved the monasteries, it's pretty much exactly the same story actually as what happened at Barley Hall. The land was sold off to the highest bidder.
The estate came into the hands of Sir Ralph Bircher in 1539. He was a successful politician and royal keeper of Rochester Castle, famously the site of Henry VIII's ill-fated first meeting with Anne of Cleves. Sir Ralph and his descendants would live here for the next 200 years. They very much created the house we'll see later in the episode. Benningborough was still their family seat in 1650 when ObiwanKnitter was considering publishing his Cromwell exposé. So what did he decide to do?
Well, it had been made a capital offence to criticise the new regime, so Needham was playing with fire, and he was already subject to an arrest warrant for the stories that he'd already published.
So he wrote a letter to England's ruling council and asked for an audience. Why would they possibly agree to that meeting? Probably because he threatened to release his Cromwell exposé if they didn't. So the meeting went ahead. No one knows for certain what happened, but the upshot of it was ObiwanKnitter was employed by the government to handle all their public relations. With the job came a massive salary. It looks very much like he bribed his way to the top.
Whilst John Bradshaw had employed him, many believe that Oliver Cromwell was instrumental in the decision. And whilst once Needham had set about creating a negative image for Cromwell, now it was his job to do the reverse, to create a positive one. And that's a positive image that in some places remains with us to this day.
Because in the weeks and months that followed, Needham began publishing a paper which became the indispensable house journal of the English Commonwealth. Cromwell had found his public relations man, and my goodness, he was going to need him.
But we have a stately home to explore, and when we come back in part 2, that's exactly what we're going to do. So thank you so much for watching so far, and I'll see you later on in the show with more Britain, the stately era.
What a start! Oh my goodness! I mean, that garden is spectacular. Even when there's nothing really growing.
I was going to say, yeah, we're going to have to go in the summer, I think.
You're going to have to go.
That's what I said.
No, you've never even been.
I've never been. Can you
Because
say I didn't go with Dan on this one?
when I walked into that house, the first thing I said was, this is better than Chatsworth. the woman was like, oh my goodness, you're very kind. And then I said, I need to apologise to you because I lived in York for 20 odd years and I've never been here once. And I was stunned as to how close it was to York.
Right, yeah, it was. How long did it take you to drive from the centre?
15 minutes.
I mean, yeah, it's bonkers, isn't it? But they do say, though, you never visit places that are on your doorstep.
They do, but I went to Castle Howard, which is a lot further all the time.
Yeah.
I went to so many other places really, really often.
Yeah.
And I know the reason why we didn't go, because my parents did not have a lot of money and they would have had to have paid to get in.
Yes.
And when we went to Castle Howard, we never went inside. You know, we might sometimes have gone in the gardens.
Yeah.
But we never went inside the house.
Right. And you didn't have to pay to park, did you then?
No.
I don't know if you do now.
Well, quite often when we were going to Castle Howard...
No, I don't think you do pay to park.
We actually went and parked in that village before the...
Oh, right,
and we used to walk around the lake.
Right.
For a walk around the lake. It was
Right.
amazing. But yes, it is the most amazing place. The garden just has this lovely vibe. I love walled gardens.
Oh, I love walled gardens.
And
I would love a walled garden.
I love the fact as well that, you know, it's sort of fascinating to think of it like the lost garden, like, you know, all grown up and like completely, and then 1995, right, we're going to sort this out, and then, you know, sorting everything out.
Oh, I would have loved to have been part of that.
I know, all that rootstock
I love,
business.
like, you know, sorting things out. And
Making it look
you
great
know,
again.
Yeah.
Just spectacular. Wait till you see inside the house. I mean, it's amazing.
It's
because
beautiful.
what you're going to see is you're going to see that large space which we saw at Barley Hall, but then how it sort of architecturally has like become what we all know and love about, you know, stately homes. But then the rooms that then are starting to spring off on the outside of it, and there's a cool World War II reference
There
to
is.
which is
Very
really
cool.
great. There's some very cool music.
Yeah.
And it's in part 2 when you'll hear the great music from my brother Dom.
Yes.
Look, very exciting moment. So yes, it's time for a brand new segment, and prepare for a brand new sound drop that reflects our excitement perfectly. This is Pick of the Projects.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Come on. So it's me first.
Oh, is it you first?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
In a very, very sort of, I find this hard. I was brought up in a school.
Yeah.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Open doors, you know, respect, all of that. So for me to go first is difficult. But this is
You're
definitely...
going to push in and go
I'm
first.
I'm really not.
Did you used to do that? Push into the, like...
Dinner queue?
Dinner queue.
Yeah.
You can't push in.
Yeah, I can.
Get to the back. Yeah, I can. I mean, a year higher than you. I can push in.
I'm a 4th year.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're in the 6th form. I'm bigger than you. No, that never happened.
No.
It's all changed now.
Oh, I know. I
look,
can't even talk about it.
Look, this is my pick of the projects.
Oh.
It's my pick of the projects for so many reasons. You may have noticed my first project, I did not match the project to the bag, but the bag was matched to the project. And here, look at this. I mean, look. It's like, apart from the blue...
It's alchemy, isn't it? It's Project Alchemy.
This is the Sweetheart Cal. Knitted it once before, did okay, come back this time, learnt so much, you know, much better in this midsection. And this section before is quite challenging. You know, Kate made it deliberately more challenging for me.
You asked for challenging.
I did. And first time through, it was a real sort of, really had to like... This time, it's like flowing. You know, I'm getting the repeats even, which is insane. And it just is the most wonderful project to knit, because the first time I did it, it was close in colours because I wanted to make it look ruined.
That's right.
This time, it's like knitting it for the first time because there's a real stark contrast. So the pattern's really standing out. So there's so many elements to it. Great yarn, you know, the fact that it's standing out, the fact that I can feel myself having improved a lot, which is a wonderful feeling. All of those things are all amounting to the most wonderful project that I'm loving every second of.
This middle section, isn't it just lovely?
And I do feel like I must just pause for a second to say there's nothing wrong with me. It is the beginning of spring and
It's
allergies and all of that
Oh
business.
my goodness.
So if you hear a croaky voice from either me or Kay,
it's just allergies.
That's all
I
it
had
is.
the worst allergy day a few days ago. Oh my goodness. I've never known anything like it.
So, Sweetheart Cow, exceptional project. And I'm very
beautiful.
excited to make this my very first pick of the projects.
I love it. I love this section here. And this is going to be for Bryony. And even though this is, it's not particularly Halloweeny, this design, is it? The colours sort of make you think of Halloween. But also, this middle section, I keep seeing little faces in the hearts somehow.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
Look, everyone is chomping at the bit.
Oh.
No one gives a monkeys about my pick of the projects. What they want to know is, what's your pick of your projects?
Right. So, this new project is a new cast on. I'm housing it in a Christmas bag. I made this one, if you remember, because it uses an advent calendar of yarn, and this is actually an advent calendar that I've just bought. Didn't buy it at Christmas, and I had an idea for something. I really wanted a project, right, that, because I've got a lot going on at the moment. I've had a lot going on design-wise the past year. I've been working on something for Summer of Stitching for the past year, and I really wanted something just that at the end of the day, it would give me something to look forward to, at the end of my day. I'm like, right, I can do everything else I've got to do, and then I know I can get to that thing that I really want to knit. And the thing I love knitting, probably the most is blankets, right? So I really wanted to start a new blanket. I've got plenty of yarn I could have used. I could have done like a scrappy one. I do have 2 full advent calendars. I've got my own, which I dyed, which I'm using for the My Perfect Socks. And then I also bought one last Christmas from Beaches and Birdsong, which is Peter Pan themed. So I did have calendars, but what I wanted for this was I wanted some tonal yarns, and I didn't have enough tonal yarns in my minis that would work because, right, historically, I've never been that mad of a fan of fades. However, for this particular project, that's exactly what I wanted, because I had an idea in my head of a way of using a faded advent calendar in a slightly different way, and I didn't have enough minis that I could make work. And by chance, when all this was going on in my head the past couple of weeks, I noticed that Beth at Beehive Yarns had re-dyed her advent calendar from last year, which was called the Bookish Advent. This is like the card that came with it. And what she did with that is she dyed all yarns based on these particular editions of sort of classic novels. I don't know what edition this is. I can't quite read what it says. It's a particular publisher. But all of the colours were sort of based on these books. And it was this beautiful fade in colours that I really loved. So I bit the bullet and I bought it. Right? I just thought, can I do this? Can I do this? Yes, just buy it. So I did. And I got this yarn. So the way that the calendar works, I'll show you the yarn first. I've worked through a good portion of the yarns already, but there's kind of a warm side and a cool side to the fade. So this, I'm sorry for the crinkling, is still in the bag. The reason they're in the bags is that I want to leave them in the order because I'm picking them up in that order. I don't want to get them mixed up. So this is the cool side. So it runs from like this deep blue all the way over to this soft sage green. So there's 12 there. And then the warm side is where I started, and I've just got these ones left on the warm side. What she did as well is she put in a note of all of the books. So I can tell you as I've been working through them which books I've already knitted, which is fun. So yeah, I've actually designed a blanket for this, and this blanket inspiration, the technique for how the shape is made comes from another design that I'm working on for something later in the year. And it's based on the way that hap shawls are are constructed, the way that the increases and decreases are done for that. So I took that technique, but then I've added in what I wanted to be the blanket, you know, in the middle of the blanket, let's say. It's going to be a square blanket. So let me show you where I'm up to, and then I'll explain what it is I'm doing. And oh my goodness, it's just an absolute joy. So I've got a contrast yarn going on as well. So what I wanted was a corner-to-corner blanket, because I really enjoy a corner-to-corner blanket, and I'm harking back to my favourite blanket series. If you remember, that was a corner-to-corner. But with that one, it was a rectangle. So we did the increases, then we went straight, and then we did the decreases. With this, it's a square. So I'm working through half of the yarn on the increases and then half of the yarn on the decreases, and we'll have a lovely square. So let me show you where I'm up to, and then I'll explain how it's working. So here's where I'm up to. Oh my goodness, look at this. Is this not the prettiest thing you've ever seen? The reason I wanted tonals is I just really wanted it to be the yarn that shone. Do you know, when it speckles, sometimes you can't necessarily, you know, it's not as bold. I wanted it to be very graphic looking, if you know what I mean. And so yeah, I started down there with that darkest colour. You can see it's corner to corner. And then I'm putting in bands of a contrast in between the colours. But what I'm doing is I'm holding the minis double. So I'm working my way through the minis. So like I'm holding numbers 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4 together, 5 and 6 together. I'm working my way through like that. So at the moment I'm on 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm on 7 and 8. And it's these two. This is what I've got left. So because the colours are close, what happens is it's difficult to see it from a distance, but up close, the sections, they have so much depth to their colour, because, you know, this advent, it just works absolutely perfectly for what I wanted to do, because there isn't a huge difference between the individual skeins. So when you pick 2 up, you'll get, you know, just a subtle difference between one and the other. And that means that you don't get that effect where, do you know, when you hold yarns double sometimes and one's really light and one's darker, it produces more of a mild look. With this, it doesn't do that. You just get gorgeous tones running through. Now you might be able to see as well, within the blanket, I've actually added a stitch pattern. Can you see here?
Oh, yeah.
So as well as alternating the yarns and putting in the bands of the contrast, every certain number of rows, I'm adding in a drop stitch row. I've never done drop stitch before, and oh my goodness, it's the most fun ever. It feels wrong because, you know, you're dropping a loop off, but it's so fun, and it produces this kind of trellis effect. Can you see down here?
What did I call it?
What did you call it?
The spindly bit.
Spindly bit. Dan said, oh, I like those spindly bits. So every certain number of rows, I'm adding in a drop stitch row. So you've got lots of elements to kind of look forward to.
Yeah.
So not only are you excited to get to the end of one colour and then start the next, but I'm always excited to get to the end of one colour, put in the contrast. It's the same width of stripe for the contrast all the way through. And then get to the next colour and then see what that's going to look like placed with all the others. But then also you've got that little target of putting in the drop stitch rows. I just did one here this morning, if you can see. You've got that target as well. So there's always something to look forward to, and it's just so fun. And it's really been motivating for me in terms of like having a project that I really, really want to work on, but stopping yourself, if you like, until you've got everything else you need to do that day. You know, whether that was work or whether it was housework or whether you were going out out for your job or whatever it was, you know, I'm always looking forward to picking this up at night time and working on it, because it's just so lovely. And I think the yarns are just, like I said, the yarns are just absolutely perfect. And so what I've knit through so far, so the dark section, let me fold it over. Oh, that's the wrong side. It looks nice on the other side, to be fair. So yeah, this very dark starting was Jane Eyre and Black Beauty. These are great pairings, aren't they? It really made me smile to think, oh, do they go together? Jane Eyre and Black Beauty? I don't know. And then the next one, we've got A Study in Scarlet and Hamlet. Very interesting. Next one, Mansfield Park and Little Women. That sounds absolutely amazing, doesn't it, those two books? And then I'm now working on The Hound of the Baskervilles and Persuasion. So that's just so fun as well, to just look at it and think, oh, what two books have I got now? And now, will these two fall together? Let me just see. We've got those two, and then 7 and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I do. I'm really looking forward to The Wind in the Willows and The Railway Children. Oh, my goodness. What a joy that's going to be. I know, so I'm just absolutely loving it. So this was a massive design process, right? Because I had to figure out how to do the increases and decreases. So I did a swatch. I did several swatches, actually. But this one, I started off and I just did a half and half. So I did the increases in one colour and the decreases in another. And I wasn't really happy. See, the increase edge here, what I'm doing, God, there's so many elements to this. It's difficult to sort of rationalise my thoughts in a logical way. I just get a bit excited. But the increases are all on the edge, so you get these beautiful loops. And the loops are still there on the decrease edge, but because there's decreases as well, doing it the kind of, I don't know if it's the traditional way. When I was researching this, I found lots of information about how these are constructed. And doing it this particular way, the loops kind of disappear a little bit, and I wasn't very happy with that. So I had a bit of a redesign of the decreases, and I did a teeny swatch yesterday to check. And it's just brilliant. I just need to work out the very end bit here because this sticks up a little bit. But you can see from this tiny swatch, we've got those loops all the way around the edge really evenly. And that's what I wanted. So I had a bit of a think about it, a bit of a redesign on how to do the decreases, and I'm really thrilled with how it looks. So I now know that I can get cracking on the decreases once I've knit my way through the first half of the yarns. So just absolutely loving it. It's been such fun. And the contrast, actually. Such fun. The contrast yarn I'm using, what I wanted was, I wanted a lighter neutral, but I wanted something that was warm, because these colours, they don't, when I put like just yarns next to them, I didn't want anything too sort of white. It seemed a bit too stark, because there's a lot of, even though the cool side is blues and greens, I think it feels quite warm overall. So I went for this one, which is a Cascade Heritage, and the colour is called Macadamia. So it's just a really warm, soft, sort of beigey colour, and it just seemed perfect for all of the colours. My only concern was that this light colour, those two there that I'm going to be holding together at the end, that this would be really similar. But I think there will be a bit of a difference when they're held together. I think there'll be enough of a difference that you will be able to see a bit of a contrast. But, with everything else, it's a really nice, quite high contrast. So, yeah, I'm using 4.5mm needles, my favourite higher bamboos, because you've got to have your favourite needles for your favourite current project. And it's just an absolute joy. So I will keep you posted on the progress of my lovely blanket. I haven't given it a name or anything yet.
What a pick of the project.
Yes.
A new cast on and an epic cast on it.
I know, I'm
It
so
is
excited
gorgeous.
about it. I'm beyond excited about having this finished blanket. And it's the yarns, really, and the base. I didn't tell you the base I'm using. It's the one with gold sparkle. I think she calls it Barbarella Gold or something. But it's got gold sparkle in it as well, so what more could you want?
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely fabulous.
So there you have it, the very first pick of the projects. Oh
Pick
my
of the
goodness.
projects.
It's so exciting.
Very
Every episode,
exciting.
you will get to find out which is our favourite project and why we love it so much. Oh yes. Now though, speaking of pick of the projects, it's time for definitely the pick of the recent finished object.
yes,
I mean,
yes.
this is amazing. Oh my goodness, it's so amazing actually.
Yes.
Because it's Wizard of Oz, isn't it?
You didn't say what's off.
I know I'm going to say it now. I am right, aren't I?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. It's time for Kay Jones. What's off your needles?
So I do have one finished thing, and it's my Wizard of Oz socks. I just knit them so
Oh,
quick.
I love them so much.
I showed you these last time, and I finished them.
Amazing.
So here they are. It's scrappy Wizard of Oz socks, and
Can I
just yeah.
My favourite is that one, Emerald City.
Yeah, I know.
And I didn't even know that was Emerald City.
Yeah, I dyed that one.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I know.
Oh,
I
sorry.
think I need a full skein in that.
Oh gosh.
So
That's
I might,
so terrible.
I might have to do that. It's just so pretty. But look at my cuffs. Can you see? I spoke about this last time. So the cuff is the scarecrow, and I didn't like the way that this one knit up here.
Yeah.
So I just used this mossy green, which is the colour of his top, and I love this one so much more than this one.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how just swapping out one yarn, just it borders it at the top, doesn't it, nicely? But anyway, it doesn't matter, does it? So yeah, they're all finished and I absolutely love them. So yeah, these are all based on Wizard of Oz characters. I'll just hold one up. So we start with the Scarecrow,
Yeah.
Tin Man, Cowardly Lion, Wicked Witch,
Yeah.
Glinda, Ruby Slippers, Emerald City, Yellow Brick Road, of course, and Dorothy's Dress. So that one's Dorothy, I suppose. And I
It looks
just
so
love
much
them.
like the dress.
Yeah, well, her dress is gingham, isn't it? It's blue and white gingham, but then she does wear little blue socks, like little blue ankle socks. So, and because this blue is very tonal, I thought it works well for a dress. It looks sort of a bit ginghamish, doesn't
Beautiful.
it? So I just did plain vanilla, 64 stitches, and the heel is my butterfly heel that I added in, and my umbrella toe.
Gorgeousness.
And I just love them. These will actually go, if I can resist wearing these, they will go into my sock stash. These will make pair number 3 for my sock stash this year. So I'm still okay with that. We're still in March, aren't we? And then the yellow socks, the lemon top socks, they will go into my sock stash when they're finished, and also the short and sweet will go into my sock stash too. So I'm well underway with my sock stash this year, and we'll be giving an update on that actually in Pop, won't we, on Sunday?
Yes, our Patreon only show. We'll talk about that in Endy Bits.
Yeah. But all finished and I absolutely love them. I will definitely use this recipe again for scrappy socks because I really like the width and I like the length of the leg. It just was perfect.
Cool. Wow. Look. What's off your needles?
Yeah.
Gorgeous pair of socks. We've got the second part of Brit the Stately Era to watch.
we do.
That means amazing music from my wonderful brother. Get inside the house and discover a bit of World War II history as well. It's going to be amazing. Let's get back to Britain, the Stately Era.
Britain, the stately era, and it's time to get inside our first proper English stately home. Now, this land was, of course, once farmed by the monks of St Leonard's Hospital, but in time it became the home of the Bircher family. Whilst it's not as big as Harewood House or Chatsworth, there's a very good reason for that.
You see, the English stately home is an imposing record of aristocratic wealth, innovative design and fashionable exterior. But no one country house is the same as another. That's because they reflect the whims of their owners, their family history, and the lives of countless staff who've helped develop and run the house and estate, often for hundreds of years. What makes Benningborough so unique to our story is its inspiration, because the idea of the stately home was ingrained into British society with the arrival of the Romans. At the height of the Romano-British Empire, landowners lived in villas with their own private courtyard, separate from the agricultural estate that surrounded it. That looks a lot like what lies below, doesn't it? But when the Roman Empire fell in Britain, those properties were lost for a time, and in that gap, houses like Barley Hall appeared. As architecture progressed, soon the idea of the Roman villa returned in houses like Benningborough Hall.
The genesis of houses like this was actually the brick. When the Romans left, we forgot how to make them. But when the Tudors arrived, that technology returned with a vengeance.
The arrival of the brick brought the fashion of the chimney stack. They proclaimed wealth and superiority to village houses, and so ornate ones, even fake ones, started to appear on all the grandest houses. They also allowed second floors to appear, which would include bedrooms, bathrooms, and so much more. The Tudor world was the first to see a stately home as we know it today.
So let's get inside this wonderful place and discover some of its history.
The hall we see today was built in 1708. Its owner at the time was John Bircher, and at the age of 24, he set about building a home for himself and his wife Mary. The most important room in the house was, of course, this great hall. Thanks to the path these houses evolved through, this central hall, just like the one we saw at Barley Hall, was the beating heart of every stately home. Country houses needed huge numbers of staff to support them. This was the way of life pioneered by the castles, continuing on in a new architectural form. Hundreds of people would have once worked here, taking care of the house, the land that surrounded it, and the business of the family who owned it. Now, this type of architecture is called Baroque. It's named after the French word barocco, meaning misshaped pearl. It looks incredibly reminiscent of the type of building you'd see in Rome. When John Bircher started building Benningborough, he'd just returned from a grand tour of Europe. He'd spent 2 years in Italy and he adored the buildings he saw, so it's no surprise this was the style he chose for his new home. Now, I think it's fair to say this looks rather different to Barley Hall, doesn't it? That's because Barley Hall was built before the invention of the chimney. Before then, fires were lit in the Great Hall, with the smoke rising up and passing out of a hole in the top of the building called a louvre. Once the chimney stack was invented in the Tudor era, the fire moved into the wall cavity. Smoke now disappeared out of the building rather than permeating around the roofline. Second floors could now be installed, and to get there, you would need a staircase. A great staircase immediately became a status symbol, and so they were always beautifully decorated. They might include the coat of arms of the owner, or perhaps carvings of beasts. As joinery techniques improved, the newel posts disappeared inside the workings of the staircase, and just like here at Benningborough, this gave the impression that the stairways were hanging unsupported in the air. With the advent of the second floor, rooms could now be added above, and the first was the Great Chamber. This was a space where the owner could dine and sleep with his family. By the time Benningborough was built, further rooms had appeared. The Great Chamber became smaller and now was called the Withdrawing Room. The owner would have a separate space for sleeping. This was, of course, the bedroom. It was the start of a new fashion that swept across society, the desire for privacy. Whilst it was a private space, friends and guests could be received here. The four-poster bed was the single most expensive piece of furniture in the house, its curtains keeping out drafts and providing privacy from servants. In the 17th century, further rooms were added, and a dressing room was provided off the bedroom. The one here at Benningborough is a fine example. The ladies' version of the dressing room was known as a boudoir, taken from the French word boudet, meaning to sulk. The gentleman's version was known as the cabinet. Similar ones appear in houses across Britain, including royal palaces. As the modern British Parliament took flight in the decades following the Civil War, it was in rooms like this that the king would often meet his closest circle of advisors. It became such a habit that the name stuck, and to this day, many Western governments refer to the highest-ranking government officials as their cabinet. Now, we're going to find in this series that over the centuries, stately homes have been used for many different purposes. And during World War II, pilots from the nearby base at Linton-on-Ouse were billeted here. Flying Spitfires, Lancasters and Halifaxes whilst on duty, off duty, this cabinet became their bar. The marks we see here are cigarette burns, which date from this period. If you look closely at that door frame, you can see where the bar was mounted. That's because the officer manning the bar would serve drinks from this doorway. Whilst pouring the drink, he popped his lit cigarette here for safekeeping. Those pilots and crew with a drink in hand would then relax with that drink in here. This is the withdrawing room, or drawing room for short. As we look across the room, you will notice that the wooden panelling is different on each side of the room. That's because this was originally two different rooms. It was the state apartments. John and Mary Bircher, the builders of the hall we see today, slept here. Their initials, JMB, are actually carved into the woodwork, which I think is a wonderfully romantic touch. The other side of the room was their private withdrawing room, and you'll see as we look across how the beautifully ornate carving here changes into something a little bit more refined on the other side of the room. That's because this was a space used for welcoming the most important guests. The wall separating the two rooms was removed in the 1830s, creating one sumptuous drawing room. As we have seen, Benningborough Hall is a perfect example of an intermediate English stately home. Whilst it's a step down from somewhere like Chatsworth, this was the technological stepping stone that had to happen before places like that could exist. Barley Hall came first. It expanded into houses like Benningborough, and only then would we start to see the development of the truly palatial estates. The man who inspired those estates to develop was Henry VIII. He employed an Italian architect to build a tomb for his father, to which he added the height of Italian fashion, the column. Classical architecture, last seen 1,500 years earlier at the height of Rome, now became fashionable once again. 50 years later, the first real stately home appeared in England, at Longleat, and it was inspired completely by that tomb that Henry had commissioned in London. This house, Longleat, would go on to inspire every house that came next. Why? Well, because it was the first, and also because it set a trend. This was the first time any house had ever been built that was completely symmetrical. Prior to the construction of Longleat, no thought was given to how a building looked from the outside. Early castle architecture was unplanned and often untidy. If they needed a stables or a barracks, for example, they built one, with no thought on the aesthetics. In the world of the stately home, balance was the key, with close agreement in size and shape occurring from a central point. Symmetry has an innate appeal to human beings who are hardwired to recognise it in faces. With this final element in place, the stately home was set to take the country by storm. Who would live in these spectacular buildings? Men like Oliver Cromwell. But to do that, he would have to rise to the very top of the English Commonwealth, and that is exactly what was about to happen. As Christmas 1650 approached, the English Parliament passed a new law washing away one of the old elitist laws of the English monarchy. Since the foundation of the judicial system, court notes had been written in the language of the Church, which was Latin, or in the language of royalty, which, thanks to William the Conqueror, was French. From now on, they would be written in the language of the people, English. The Civil War was well and truly over. Elected members of Parliament were becoming more moderate and actually passing laws that made sense. Whilst Cromwell may have agreed with some, he feared the rift growing between the government and the army which he now led. For 3 years the situation simmered. The dramatic end came when Parliament declared themselves ready for an election. Cromwell decided action needed to be taken. He informed them elected officials weren't working and that a government should be chosen specifically for the job. They pretended to listen, fearful for their lives. Then they ignored his advice and began the election process. Cromwell caught wind of the plan and stormed into Parliament with a garrison of armed soldiers. He berated the House and forcibly removed the Speaker. Cromwell then took his men to the Council of State's chambers and informed them they were disbanded. John Bradshaw, the man who had been king in all but name, did all he could to uphold the new Republic's government, informing Cromwell only God could dissolve them. Words, though, had no power against men armed with muskets. In one stroke, the brave new world where anything seemed possible had become a dictatorship. This was Marchemont Nedham's moment. The master of spin now turned his hand to making Cromwell's actions look justified. Nedham's messaging to the country was simple. He told them Cromwell was just acting in the best interests of the country. He then played his ace card, which all but assured him of a winning hand. Nedham told the country that God himself was guiding all Cromwell's actions. You have to remember that this was a deeply religious time.
If you got ill in the 17th century, you thought you were being punished for something that you'd done that was bad. So to claim divine providence was playing its hand in Cromwell's actions was an absolute genius move.
Because all the people who mattered in the country at that time believed him. And just before Christmas in 1653, in Westminster Hall, where Henry VIII had once played tennis with Anne Boleyn, where Elizabeth I had celebrated her coronation, and where Charles I had been sentenced to death, Oliver Cromwell was declared Lord Protector of the realm.
It was a coronation in all but name. The country had a king of sorts again. The rough country lawyer had risen to the very top of the pile, and to do so, he trampled on everything and everyone in his way. What would happen next? Quite a lot, actually. But that's a story for next time. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more Britain, the stately era. Welcome everyone to Harewood House, the next destination in our exploration of the English stately home. One house stands shoulder to shoulder with the greats, and it's the perfect place for us to continue our story of the stately era.
We're off and running now. Oh,
Did you
yes.
love that house? Isn't it beautiful?
I absolutely adored it.
I think you could live in that house.
It's very
It
livable.
felt like a more normal size.
Yeah.
It was huge. But compared to like Chatsworth or Castle Howard,
Or Harewood.
felt... Or Harewood.
Where we're visiting next time.
Yeah.
As you saw at the end of the episode.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it very livable. What I loved about it was the landscape that it was set in. It is sort of away from any main roads. Chatsworth, for example, there's cars around the place. I mean, there's no main roads per se, but
no.
I think because
Yeah.
this is in, well, it's not as widely a visited place.
No.
So I think that's what brings the cars onto Chatsworth Estate. Harewood, where we're going next time, there's a main road right next to the house. And so because this is so sort of tranquil, you feel like you're stepping back in time. You can also see as well the direct link between the villa living, the Roman villa living, which is the other stately home inspiration. I mean, it's been a revelation for me, this learning. I had no idea that the stately home sprang from Viking longhouses, Roman villas. It makes all the sense in the world because the Roman, hundreds and hundreds of years, here they are in this country and, all across the country, right up into Scotland as well, villas everywhere. And then it's the same then with Viking longhouses. They come in, they're built everywhere. So fused together.
I love the symmetry of the houses. I love that
That's
symmetry.
the Roman thing.
Yeah. It's really... Like, I think you referenced, didn't you, that
Yes.
we always look for symmetry in things.
This was the point. So
I think as humans we find that attractive, don't we? Symmetry.
it's bang on this period. It's right on the point where, I think kings and queens, they probably always thought you need... I mean, when you think of a king and queen, I think of a castle. And now that's gone. So it's like a blank slate. What can we do right? Symmetrical buildings, all that look perfect. And actually, you go from a castle, a king and queen in the castle, to a king and queen in the palace. Well, that's what we're going to get to by the end of the series. So it's all of that then led us to the point of... Because Buckingham Palace, for example, probably the most famous of all the royal buildings, that is late 17th century.
Yeah.
So it stemmed from all of this. So I think the thing I love the most about history is how everything is like a sandwich. You've got to have the things down here to get to the things up here.
Yeah.
Like you've got to have the butter.
Ah.
We need to talk about that on our Patreon-only show.
We do.
So look, let's segue to the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits!
Yes, she nearly forgot.
I nearly forgot.
We are getting ready for our next Patreon exclusive show. It's coming up on Sunday. It's going to be live at 2 p.m. or any time you like after 3:10. There's full details in the show notes below as to how you can watch that show. And we'll be talking lemon top socks, talking about lemon tops, other treats, childhood treats and things that perhaps we remember. And we want to hear about your, favourite childhood treats, because definitely for me, the lemon top was the top of the list. I mean, it was amazing that you pulled it out of the bag.
I know.
And you never had one.
I've never had one, no. I'm obviously going to have to recreate a lemon top.
Well, we need to get you
finished.
a proper lemon top from a whipping machine.
Yes, we do.
Because there's nothing... I
love a Mr. Whippy.
There's something colder, and I think it's because there is water in a Mr. Whippy.
Yeah, because it's sorbet rather than ice cream.
Whippy ice cream... to me, still feels like ice cream. Yeah,
it is ice cream. It's milk based, isn't it?
But there's something cooler about it. So what you're saying, I totally get.
Yeah.
So on a hot day, the problem is, of course, it melts faster than a normal ice cream.
Yes, so I would say so.
You've got to eat it quick.
Eat it quick, but not a problem really.
Combining the lemon top with a whippy, it's like a marriage made in heaven. Yeah, we'll be talking lemon top, but also we're going to be talking butter. Where do you put your butter? Do you have a sandwich? So if you're having a ham and cheese sandwich, do you spread some sort of... Because some people might...
Do you put butter on your bread when you make a sandwich?
Yes.
We just presumed, right, everybody put butter on their bread when they made sandwiches. Yeah. We don't think that's the case.
No. And
so we're going to have a very in-depth discussion about this subject.
We are, and all I'll say to you is I would advise that you try it, and then we'll move on from that.
You've got to have butter on your bread.
But we will.
But we know not everybody does, so I think it's really interesting.
We'll pick this conversation up live because, being able to interact, with people all over the world who will have very strong opinions about where you put your butter.
As do we.
Yes. So, the next Patreon exclusive show coming up on Sunday.
And the clocks change.
Yes, it's... British summertime, but I've stipulated that in all the correspondence that has been put forth.
Yes.
Also, Kay's Sorting Your Sock Stash tutorial, wow, that's hard to say, is out now. If you want to see what's in all of this, if you want to find out how she organised...
Yes, you said sock stash.
Forget the sock stash, I'm obsessed. The yarn stash, if you want to see what's in all of this, if you want to see how she sorted all this out, what's in all of these cubes... You can watch that now. It's been very popular so far, so that's very cool. Lots of
I need to mention
lots of tutorials and reviews coming in April. You continue your series on Knit One Below. You've got the Purl One Below. Loads of people were lapping up the Knit One Below.
Interesting.
So Purl One Below is coming this month. Also, we've got reviews coming out. Jen's here with a Holtzgarn Titty Car review. That's fun to say. And there's so much
Best name ever for a yarn base.
And there's so much more as well coming this month. So you wanted to show...
You've been looking probably at this cube here with my lovely... I rearranged, because you couldn't see this last time. But I thought I'd bring a little friend down to sit with these lovely yarn, tiny little sweetie ball things. And
excellent.
I brought my giraffe down, so I've arranged her so that she doesn't fall. So this is a design of mine, this lovely giraffe. She's called Miss Gelato Giraffe. And she was designed as a homage to Bryony's very special Goffy giraffe. And Bryony's giraffe is by a company called Happy Horse. I believe they're in the Netherlands, I think it's the Netherlands. And she's got several giraffes actually made by them, but her special one is Goffy. And Goffy is these sorts of colours, green and lemon. So I designed Miss Gelato Giraffe, like I say, as a little homage to her. So she's one of my designs, and I just wanted to mention in case anybody's looking up there and thinking, who is she? And she's just the sweetest giraffe. She's got a lovely little tail on the back there. And she has a matching cardigan in the pattern, which is just adorable.
And she's, of course, part of the Bakery Bear family, because
she is
probably the one question that we've got asked the most over the years. We did answer it in the very first episode. We do answer it on our website, but some people wonder why we're called the Bakery Bears.
Yeah.
Well, it's because the first pattern Kay ever put out was a Bakery Bear. We released the show to go with the release of that pattern, thinking it would be a one-off show, so it made sense to call it the Bakery Bears. Subsequently that, though, that gave birth then
Yeah,
to
and
everything that followed.
It just stuck. So that's why.
Well, we are now the Bakery Bears.
Well, we are, of course we are, yeah.
I'm Mr. Bakery Bear. You're Mrs. Bakery Bear.
But Miss Gelato Giraffe runs the ice cream shop.
See.
So there we go. There's another little reference. But
Amazing.
I just thought she was so sweet to sit up there. I think this yarn was a Cascade variegated. Cascade 220. They used to
It will
do
be.
like variegated. And yeah, and this one is Cascade Heritage, I believe. So isn't she sweet? Hello. So she's been up there keeping us company.
What a wonderful way to finish.
Yes.
So talented, Kay.
Thank you very much. Said with much sarcasm, I think.
And on that happy note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. We hope you've enjoyed this next chapter,
Yes.
the very start.
Let
Folks,
us know if you've enjoyed it.
really hope you have. There's more to come. There are new segments on the way, imminently,
there
actually.
are. We're still
So,
in the process.
very exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. and we'll
Thanks,
see
everybody.
You
Happy
in 2
knitting.
weeks with a show that will feature the next episode of My Perfect Socks.
Happy knitting, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
We should call this bit the runt of the litter.
Run to the litter.
Yeah.
Episode 2, shot 101.
Who was
Oh,
born
runt.
last? Yeah.
I thought you said run.
No, runt.
I'm like, why am I running
No,
to
no.
the litter?
Oh, you.
A beautiful.
I mean, how horrible to call the little pig that came out last the runt of the litter.
Oh, it's always the best one, isn't
Yes.
it? Is that it?
No, we're
Oh,
back.
stop it.
I caught her again. Oh my goodness. This is Pick of the Pops. No, it isn't.
You said pick of the pops.
Sorry.
Look, I'm going to make a cup of tea.
Yes, me too. And I'm going to... It's so
Go and
warm in
make
this
it.
room.
It's really warm in this room.
Oh.